Ever wondered how your vet can tell a horse's age simply by looking in its mouth? Or why a horse might be tossing its head while riding? Turns out it all comes down to teeth. Hey, it's Adri with her horse, and in today's video, we're going to be talking all about equine dentistry. Everything from how to age a horse based on teeth, why dental care is so important, and hopefully if the vets let me film, you're going to see my horse Sersha get a dental done so you can have a pretty good idea of what's entailed. Let's get into it. So depending on the horse, they'll need their teeth floated either once a year or twice a year. Now what floating is, it's when the uneven edges in a horse's mouth, so specifically on their teeth, get evened out either by a manual rasp, manual tools, or by a power tool. So horses' teeth continuously erupt about 1/8 of an inch per year to make up for the grinding wear from rough feed. Because of this, sharp enamel points can form on the outer edges of the upper and the inner edges of the lower. Remember, the lower jaw is much more narrow than the upper jaw, so that's why these sharp points can happen. These points can cause ulcers, difficulty chewing, bit resistance, and head tossing. So, how do you know when to get a dental? Once a year for most horses, twice a year for young horses under 5, while teeth are erupting, or in senior horses, so anything above 20 years is considered a senior horse. You should probably be getting your dentals done every 6 months with your older horses. And horses with known dental issues. Anytime you purchase a horse or before training them for a bit, you should have an equine vet look at your horse's teeth. Signs your horse might need a dental: if they're dropping feed, if they experience weight loss, if they're eating slow, if they're head tossing, if they have bad breath, if you notice facial swelling or sinus discharge, if they're packing hay or grass in their cheeks, meaning they're not chewing properly and the grass just collects in the horse's mouth. So when your horse is getting a dental, there's a few things you should do to prepare. You should make sure that you catch your horse for the vet. That is going to be so annoying to them if they get to the barn and your horse is still in the pasture when they arrive. So just make sure your horse is ready for the vet. They're going to check the mouth, make sure there's no feed, no grain, no hay or anything in their mouth, and they'll give it a good rinse. One question that a lot of people may have in regards to preparing for the dental exam is, should you withhold food from your horse? This is a great question, but you do not need to withhold food overnight or for hours before a dental like you would with a dog or cat. A horse's digestive system, they're designed to have a constant flow of forage, and withholding hay for too long can actually lead to stress or even mild colic. Most veterinarians prefer the horse's mouth to be relatively clean, meaning not packed with hay or grain when they start the exam. So a good rule of thumb is to pull hay and grain about 1 hour before the dentist arrives. This gives the horse time to swallow what's in its mouth and it doesn't risk an empty stomach. Withholding food from your horse for about an hour prior to their dental is recommended because it's not going to deprive them of food entirely, where the risk of ulcers and stress and upsetting their digestive tract comes into play. But it's enough time that allows your horse to swallow everything that's in its mouth and just makes for a smoother and ultimately quicker dental experience for you and your horse. Horses are typically sedated for dental work, especially when power tools are used. They should not have access to feed or water, since their swallowing reflex is dulled. Once the horse is fully awake and steady on their feet, they can safely eat again, usually 1 to 2 hours after sedation. So here, Saoirse's just been sedated. This is a little view of inside of her mouth. I thought that was pretty interesting. So we have a speculum that just props the mouth open, and now what you see is a power tool being inserted into her mouth just to, float down those sharp edges on the upper and the lower. Good, girly. Now you'll notice her mouth, she's moving a lot. So we actually, every time we sedate her, we have to up the sedation. We always have to give her a little more, which is kind of interesting because she's a small horse and she needs like the sedation of an elephant. And then after she's feeling the teeth surfaces, looking at the incisors, making sure we don't have any hooks, looking at the lip, making sure we don't have any gum damage. And then here is where the vet discovers Saoirse has an unerupted wolf tooth, but it doesn't seem to bother her at all. So we're just going to leave it be. Walking off the snoozies. Whoa. So how do you tell how old a baby horse is? Well, the simplest way is to remember this mantra: 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months. So that just means that at 6 days old, a baby horse's middle incisor, so the two in the middle, will erupt. The intermediate incisors erupt, so the ones right next to them. And then the corner incisors erupt at 6 months of age. So when a horse is very young, you can pretty reliably predict how old they are by looking at their teeth. For adult horses, their incisor eruption schedule is, again, another easy mantra to remember: 2.5 years, 3.5 years, and 4.5 years. So just like with baby horse teeth, that means that at 2.5 years, they will have central incisors that are permanent. At 3.5 years, they will have permanent intermediate incisors, and at 4.5 years, they will have permanent corner incisors. Some horses have certain types of teeth that others don't have. For example, geldings and stallions, they're more likely to have canine teeth, and that's usually going to be erupting in the horse's mouth anywhere between 4 and 5 years of age. Between 2 and 4 years of age, their premolars will erupt, and by 1 to 4 years of age, their molars will erupt. So by around age 5, a horse should have its full set of adult teeth, about 36 to 44 teeth, depending on whether it has canines or wolf teeth. Some horses have additional teeth called canine teeth. So canine teeth are almost always present in the male horse, so stallions, geldings, usually they have those. Mares, they're almost always absent. But if they do have canines, they'll be smaller, less developed, and probably not completely erupted in the way that you would find in male horses. So if your horse has canine teeth, there'll be these tiny little pointy teeth that resemble canine teeth like in cat or dog. They're little curved pointy teeth. And they're on the uppers and lowers. They're in between the incisors and the premolars. And they're in between the incisors and wolf tooth if your horse has a wolf tooth. So if you're sat there wondering what the heck are wolf teeth, you are in good company, because a lot of people might be surprised to hear that some horses have what we refer to as wolf teeth. So wolf tooth is a vestigial tooth that sits right before the premolars. Some horses, if they have them at all, they can have just one, sometimes they have two, but they can appear on the top and bottom. They're usually on the top. Now, if a horse has them, and this can be a mare or a gelding, they appear in many breeds. They sometimes have to get removed because it does cause discomfort when riding, especially when you have to put a bit in the horse's mouth. So if it's erupted, a lot of times they end up getting extracted by your equine vet. Now, I just found out today at my horse's dental that she has an unerupted wolf tooth on her left upper arcade, but because it's not protruded through the gum, it's still in there. We're not going to do anything. It doesn't seem to bother her. That's the deal about wolf teeth. You can also age a horse by looking at its teeth wear patterns. So for example, a horse that's between 5 and 9 years of age, their teeth are ovular and angled slightly forward. They have what are called dental cups, which are deep indentation or hollow chewing surface of a young horse's permanent incisors, which are their front teeth. The cups are folds in the tooth's enamel that fill in with cementin as the horse ages, causing the cup to wear away. The gradual disappearance of cups over time is one of the key methods for determining a horse's approximate age. So between 5 and 9 years of age, their dental cups, these indentations, they're still visible. When a horse is between 10 to 15 years of age, the cups will disappear. You'll get enamel spots start to appear, and the surface becomes more triangular. When a horse is 15 to 20 years of age, there's a little indentation in the corner incisor called a Galvani's groove. This appears at the gum line in the upper corner incisor around age 10, usually is when it starts, and it goes halfway down the tooth by age 15, and it will be all the way down the tooth by age 20. Once a horse is 20 plus years, the teeth become short, more triangular, sometimes protruding forward, giving the horse a long-toothed look. Once a horse is 30 years of age, their Galvani's groove can disappear. It becomes a little bit like witchcraft, aging a horse the older it gets. When they're super young foals, you can pretty reliably age a horse based off of its dentation. But the older a horse gets, due to multiple factors such as what the horse is eating, what sort of dental care they've had throughout their lives, what kind of nutritional unique needs does this particular horse have. Not all horses chew the same, so there's going to be some variance from horse to horse. This is just a pretty helpful guide on how to age a horse. While we're on the topic of dentistry, let's talk about some pretty cool horse facts related to their teeth. So horses' teeth take up more space in their skull than their brain. That's pretty wild. Can you imagine if our brains took up less space than our teeth? Wolf teeth are referred to as vestigial premolars that can cause a bit of discomfort, and a lot of times the wolf teeth are removed prior to training because it does interfere with the bit placement in the horse's mouth. Older horses can run out of tooth if their crowns are worn down faster than they erupt. Minis and ponies have the same number of teeth as large horses. They're just more crowded. Just like your little French bulldogs. They have the same number of teeth. Their teeth are just packed more closely into a smaller space. So don't forget, next time your horse gives you attitude under the saddle or starts dropping feed, it might just be the teeth. So go ahead, make your dental appointments. I know there's probably a lot of horses out there that are due. This is your reminder to go ahead and call the vet. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you found this video helpful.